Hi, I'm outdoor writer Rob Streeter, and I'm back again with another fly from the book that I did, which is the Greats of Adirondack Fly Fishing. And this was a fly that I discovered while doing the research for the book, and it's a historical pattern that got its beginnings with some of the great fly tyers of the Adirondacks, and in this case it's Ray Bergman. And Bergman was best known for his book Trout, which is still a book that is as valid today as when it was written in the 1930s. It has a lot of incredible illustration in the form of paintings of the flies. But there's some interesting anecdotes about Ray Bergman, a lot of which I learned from his family, and I was able to get some of his notes. These were the notes that he made on his fishing trips. As fishing editor of Outdoor Life, he documented everything he did. And one of the things that was interesting is they used to go from Nyack to go up and fish in the Adirondacks in the 1930s. Well, back then you didn't have AAA, and you were lucky to go from where he lived up to the Cranberry Lake area and make it in a day. If you did make it, more often than not, you were going to have a flat tire, you were going to have some kind of problem, because there was no interstate, any of the roads that we drive today. It was all pretty bad, beat up roads to get up there. And they would drive all day, he and his wife, to get up there so he could go and fish. Just some of the ways they described the trips up there, and just trying to get from A to B in the car were daunting, to say the least. So this fly is another one of Bergman's flies that he created, and it's called the RB Nymph. It had like RB Nymph number 1, number 2, number 3, and they're all different colors. He called it a nymph, but I am not totally sure what he was getting at. At first, when I saw them and read about them, I thought he was looking for something that was going to mimic a cased caddis. But then when you read in the book where he's talking about the RB Nymph, he was using it to imitate the flesh from a dying salmon in New Brunswick. So it was like a spawned out salmon had died and was washing apart, and the chunks of salmon were washing downstream, and he was catching big brook trout on them. So for what it's worth, this is the RB Nymph, but there again, I am not totally sure what he was shooting for with this, because he didn't fish it on a dead drift. The way he described it in this one section of the book, he was doing a slow hand twist retrieve, and he was catching fish with it. But it's a neat fly, and only 2 parts, so here it goes. Okay, so on to tying the RB Nymph. It's a pretty simple fly, so we'll get our thread started. Trim that off. And we'll run it to the back. Now this uses a long nymph hook. In his book he said was a 2 extra long. And we'll get it right there. So it really only uses 2 materials. He called it for the feelers. So for the feelers he used guinea hen, black and white guinea hen. So we're going to put that in, and he had kind of a unusual arrangement for this. He put some of it off like this, like a tail. So get that piece in, trim that off. He would run fibers going out to the left and to the right, so we'll put those in as well. There's the left side. side. Get everything bound down. It's kind of a strange arrangement, but you had fibers going off to each side and the back. It's much neater in the painting. It looks like a T, but he called them feelers, so I think it's fine to do it this way and just make sure that you got it going off both sides and the back. So he used a gold tinsel rib, so we'll get that tied in. And get it back out of the way here, hopefully. There we go. Trim that off. The body of the fly uses rusty orange colored yarn. So we'll tie that in. Bring it forward. Make sure we got it all down good, and we'll run our yarn for the body. I'm going to go up and down just to make sure we got it all covered, and he used kind of a pretty thick looking body on the fly. So we'll bring it back. And just up forward. Line that down. Trim it off. Bring the rib forward. And we'll bind that down and trim that off. So now it's back to the guinea hen. He did the same thing on the front of the fly that he did to the back. He's got and he called them feelers, so he's got some coming off the front. And we got another bunch. group of them going off to the right side, or no, this would be the left side. And the last bunch going off to the right side. And the last bunch going off to the right side. And we'll just hold those down. Make a head for the fly. And throw on a whip finish. Trim our thread and glue, and that's it. I mean, it's a really simple fly, and the odd thing is, you know, he called it a nymph, and I'm not quite sure on this one, of a lot of the flies I looked at from these historical anglers, where he was going with this, but he caught trout on it, so it's a pattern that he really liked and he included in his book, and it's something that obviously worked. The RB Nymph, and it's made in a number of different colors. So if you like the video, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and give it a like. We're going to have every fly that I mention in that book on the Greats of Adirondack Fly Fishing. We will have an instructional video for each one of those flies. Thank you.